The best part of the football season? Checking out the post-game stats. Which wideouts scored more than 2 touchdowns? Which quarterbacks threw for less than 350 yards? Think you can pick who will do what before kickoff? Then play Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, select between 2 and 6 players, and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's that simple. And for all our first-time Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers, play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code BALLERS. That's code BALLERS for new customers to play $5 on your first pick set and get $50 in Pick 6 credits only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
The DFS Studio is brought to you by DraftKings. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. We're back. It's Tuesday, October 15th on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm back from the beach, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, lifestyle of the rich and famous Betz.
I wish, dude. Apparently you're living the lifestyle of the rich and famous. While you were away, I was basically working double time, filling not only my only stuff, my usual stuff, but filling in for you, certain tasks and stuff like that. So I felt
bad about that.
I haven't seen my family, Kyle, in like 7 days. And you're just sending pictures to me left and right of you on the beach. It looks like you weren't even wearing sunscreen. You're just red as can be, sunglasses on. You just look like you're living your best life. So I think you're living the life of the rich and famous. But hopefully you had a good trip, man. We missed you. I know a lot of people missed you on the Friday show, but hope you had a good time away with the fam and happy to get back to it with you.
Yeah, I fully checked out. And by fully checked out, meaning I didn't do any of the stuff I normally do for our Thursdays and Fridays show for the main show, which is a lot of work, right?
Yeah, dude, you're telling me. I was like,
I felt bad.
There was multiple times Thursday and more so on Friday, but I was like, man, I miss Kyle, man. This is hard work. So yeah, I had to help fill in with all the matchups and all that sort of stuff. But Brooks held it down with me, so we made sure you could fully unplug.
Yeah, you and Pete, you got to record Friday episode. I actually did catch some of that, so I hopefully I'm not being replaced too much. But I know it was a good week for you, so we're going to talk about that in just a second. We're going to review. I didn't play any DFS, people, and I really do preach that if you're with family, like I do the same exact fall beach trip every single year about this time, week 5, 6, somewhere around there. And so I played 0 DFS. And I mean like 0. I didn't put any lineups together. There was a slight temptation to play cash because there's some plays I liked, but I would have been behind the 8 ball. So the way that I prepared for this show is we're going to look ahead, talk about week 7. But I asked people in our Discord, I thought it was a fun way to do it. I said, imagine I didn't play DFS this week. Just explain it to me in one sentence, like what it was. So we'll get to some of that. Apparently, the Cowboys were bad.
They weren't good.
I bet I would have played Dak. That's the thing. I would be like, oh, this is the week for Dak and CD.
And everybody thought that.
I mean, they just got boat raced. I mean, at the end of the game, right, the Lions were just like, you know what, let's throw the linemen. Like, we're just farting around. We're doing whatever we want. Like, why do normal plays anymore?
Yeah, they had an offensive lineman in the fourth quarter lining up at wide receiver just for fun because they could, because the game was over in the second quarter. Yeah, it was an abysmal performance from Dallas.
Yeah, so we'll review some of that. And then, man, I really like the slate that we have for us for week 7. There's a lot of great games. Betz and I will also get to kind of talk about where we're at 6 weeks into the season for MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and just some of those markets and where you can take advantage. I always say that I don't like betting MVP. I mean, I take the long shots or the ones that we find as values before the season. And then I personally wait until right after, midway through the season or even 3/4 because that market is a bit inefficient. Like I always find that whoever goes on that last 4 to 5 week run usually gets it. So like last year, you remember the betting favorite going into week 15 was Brock Purdy?
Yes. And then Lamar ruined that.
Baltimore.
In prime time. Yeah, that's other thing to consider. And we're going to talk about some of this stuff too, is like island games, primetime games, timing of the games matter a lot. It's like how many eyes are on this game this week, and is it a big matchup and a marquee matchup? I mostly agree with what you're saying as far as waiting till later in the year to really take heavy stances. I do think there's still some inefficiencies right now, so I'll give out a couple plays that I really like. But we like to take a portfolio-based approach where in August or July, you make 1 or 2 wagers, maybe 3, kind of start to get a couple stances, and then quickly pivot. Like we talked about after week 2, I cashed out my Anthony Richardson ticket. I was like, this just is not going to happen. It's over. So I have a couple more plays to add to that, but you're hopeful, I think, throughout the course of the season and the course of a couple seasons, if you can hit 1 or 2 of these long shots, it kind of makes your bankroll as far as the betting goes. So hopefully we can find a couple values today on the MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Offensive Player of the Year markets.
I've griped about this before, but I just want to double down, because one of the things that drives me crazy about sports and in polls or in markets like the awards, which are very narrative based, is that it's completely about the timing. A couple years ago, Jalen Hurts was hurt for weeks 15, 16. I think he missed those. I think they were the Gardner games.
Yes.
And if he would have put those at the beginning of the season, weeks 1 and 2, and then done what he did the rest of the year, he would have won the MVP. But it was just completely about the timing of when it happened, and they were cruising in. Same thing with college football. One of the things I hate most about college football is it's about when you lost, not necessarily you could have the same number of losses in another team, but if you lose in week 11, it weighs way more heavily than the team that lost in week 1 or 2, and they just keep on trucking. I was thinking about that with Georgia or Alabama when they lost. They could go on this massive run at the end of the year, and it really is in the back of people's minds. It's also about where people are ranked at the beginning of the season. That weighs way more than it should. I don't know, Betz. I hate it. I hate watching sports and thinking that it's based on what people are seeing right in front of them right now, and it's weighing way too heavily in people's minds in voting.
That's how it goes. Yeah, it is interesting how that works out, especially in college football. When you were talking, I was kind of laughing to myself because, there's going to be a point in the season where the Penn State Nittany Lions are going to lose.
As in they should have lost this weekend?
I mean, I don't think they're the 3rd best team in the country. I'll tell you that, which is hilarious. I'm just enjoying it while it lasts because I know it won't. But yes, they probably should not have won that game against USC. But it is so true in terms of just sports world where timing matters so much, especially as you get the playoff picture crystallized, not just in college, but in pro sports and everything like that. Those high profile games in November, December, when everyone's watching to see who gets the 1 seed or the 2 seed or home field advantage or whatever, that really does matter a ton in these award markets. So it's good to, like I said, build your portfolio, but I think we're going to take a pretty big stand maybe in a month or so when we get there.
Okay. So, and also, I mean, I'm getting bits and pieces of so many things in sports. They really had a tight end with 17 receptions.
Oh my goodness, dude. We're going to talk about him in the prospect season next year. But yes, he was unreal in that game against USC. And he was they put him in for, wildcat type stuff around the goal line. He's just being used everywhere.
Yeah, I love that season where we get to kind of transition from NFL season prospect, just kind of mining out different players. It's hard because I want to go fully in on prospects and just deep dive right now. But I feel I would be so thin of okay, I'm going to do DFS. Oh, but let's do betting. Oh, but let's also do season long stuff and metrics and spreadsheets. Oh, but let's also do college scouting. It's we have a team, but you and I feel already spread pretty thin on all those things. But man, I do like that. Okay. Enough talk on college football. This is not what you're here for. Let's review.
Straight cash, homie.
I needed to talk stuff out. We haven't talked in a while.
I know. It's been forever. It's been a week.
So, like I said, I did not play cash this past week. I didn't play GPPs. And so as a casual observer, I'm basically someone listening to this podcast like, hey, what happened? And from our listeners in Discord, this is what they wrote. Said, just summarize this past week. Penguin O said, Bucks and Saints had 51 points at halftime. I did see that box score, and I was like, what is going on? I was curious, did people play Spencer Rattler?
So that was the key decision point on the slate, or one of the keys for cash. We had a 4K Stoneman Spencer Rattler open up as, like years ago, we've played Sam Ellinger and Aiden O'Connell. And Pete and I talked about that on the Friday show. It's like, if he gets you, 12, 13, 14 points, maybe 16, ideal outcome, ceiling like 20, you're doing cartwheels. But man, I just was so nervous about the team level play of the offensive line was a train wreck. They have been really taking a step back since their, I think now we know in hindsight, not real performance in weeks 1 and 2. The Bucks will blitz a lot. I was just worried about Rattler in that spot. The game popped off, and Rattler was totally fine at his price for cash games. Then from there, it was like, okay, do you just go up, a couple tiers into the mid-range at 6K and play Dak? Like, I think the Lions are certainly going to score in this game. Dak's going to have to throw. Rico's going to struggle on the ground. That all played out, but the Cowboys they laid a giant egg this past week. So Dak was a decision point, and then Lamar was like an incredible play against the Commanders, but he was so expensive. So it's like, how do you make this all work, and how do you parse it? That was like the key at quarterback this week. I did play a Dak team. I felt great about it before lock. In hindsight, I think I probably still would have played it, just given the process. But I was so lucky in cash, to land on Godwin. And the reason I landed on Godwin is because I didn't want 3 Falcons in cash. That was the other thing, Kyle. You missed a week where the Falcons were the team in cash. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, Bijan Robinson were all cash viable because we had no cheap wide receivers. So Ray was in play this past week. And then, because of that, I was like, I don't want London and Ray and Bijan. So I played Godwin, truthfully got lucky to run into a 99th percentile outcome from Godwin. So I feel fortunate in cash games this week. But yeah, the quarterback decision was one that I went back and forth on for 2 hours Sunday morning and, ended up on Dak. And like I said, I feel lucky to have the result I did with Godwin. It wasn't because of Dak. It was because of Chris Godwin.
Yeah, Solozilla said, if you played a Buccaneer, you probably won some money as long as you didn't also play the Cowboys. And in cash, you could withstand Dak doing that. So we're Rattler and Prescott the two popular cash quarterbacks.
It was mostly Dak and Lamar, and then Rattler was kind of the third in roster percentage.
It's so funny taking this perspective of somebody who's hosting a podcast that's supposed to be sounding like they know what they're talking about. And obviously, I don't know anything. So it's kind of nice to go in and just kind of see the thought process. That's really all I'm doing right now is just seeing, okay, well, Bucky Irving seemed like he became a very chalky play over the weekend. Ray McLeod would not have been on my radar, but, I probably would have played Bijan. I probably would have played Jalen Polk and just said he's cheap and gone for something like that. But yeah, no, so overall it was a great week for you. And then also you got to chop a Thursday night tournament.
Yes, that was fun. Thursday night was the Seahawks and Niners, and I was very fortunate to get first. It was a less than ideal outcome being duped. I think it was 7 dupes, but I would do unspeakable things to chop first in Showdown many weeks. So I'm very happy with that. It was kind of the first big one of the year, so excited about that, and happy to hopefully keep the momentum going here. I know a lot of other people had some fun sweats going in not only last night's Showdown slate, but also the main slate and last Thursday as well. So good stuff all around in the DFS Pass.
Yeah, and just to be clear, if I would have been present this week, you would have clearly gifted some of that money to me.
Not a chance.
All right, well, we did have some other listeners who won. Yeah, we had a bunch of people in Discord. It was so fun going through those and going sweet, I have no idea what's going on. I'm happy for you guys. And I felt like the process part is what I love pulling out from just some of our listeners. So this is from the Mumford on Discord. Received bad news this week that my boiler needs replaced. Now, what's a boiler? What is it? What are they referring to?
Dude, aren't you a homeowner?
Is that just saying a water heater?
I believe so.
Do you call it that in other parts of the country or like other parts of the world?
I don't call it that. I call it a water heater.
I don't call it either. Okay, maybe that's what I took it as. Maybe like boiler is like other parts of the world they call that water heater. But my water heater or boiler needs replaced. But with the guidance from the DFS Pass, I'll be able to afford taking my family to Chili's one last time. Thanks, Borg Betz. Hashtag Southwest Egg Rolls, and get to see some of his lineups here. And then we have one from Seth on Discord. Looks like he got first in a tournament on Monday night with Garrett Wilson in the captain spot. It was nice to see Brees like have a really effective game, but it looks like some Ray Davis.
Dude, Ray.
There.
Yes, James Cook ruled out, so Ray was the punt play of the night. He was good, man. And it was interesting after the first drive. Did you watch the game last night?
I watched a little bit.
It was Ty Johnson on the first couple touches, and then all of a sudden, like, Johnson didn't touch the ball for a long time, and then he didn't touch it after the third quarter. So it was all Ray Davis. We're not going to do season-long content here on this show, but for waivers and stuff, like, if James Cook is going to miss another game, Ray Davis looks great.
So I'm just preemptively going to say this, but looking at the slate for this next week, I was thinking about our Discord, thinking about how great they are, great people.
Great.
What are you doing this next Monday, Betz? Because there's a 2-game slate.
Oh, next Monday. Let's see. I will be probably prepping for the 2-game slate.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm just throwing it out there. We didn't even talk about it, but we'll do something special for our Discord folks. Man, I can't even. I suck at this.
That was
now.
great, Kyle.
Oh no!
Welcome back.
I suck again.
State of the main slate.
Each week, Betz and I refer to the lines at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's where Betz and I play. You can go to sportsbook.draftkings.com. And normally, we check in with some wagers, personal wagers, things we made. But we wanted to talk about the awards markets here about 6 weeks in. So we'll be talking MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, which is, kind of our bread and butter, and Offensive Rookie of the Year. So, Betz, start us off with MVP, the lay of the land, and I'll see if I agree or disagree with you.
Yeah, so right now, these are DraftKings odds. Obviously, if you're going to bet any of this stuff, please shop around. But Mahomes is the favorite. He's plus 360. Josh Allen is second, plus 475. Lamar Jackson, plus 550. And CJ Stroud, rounding out the top four, they're at plus 650. So, early in the year, we gave some long shots, some, as the kids say, the value plays that, certainly aren't going to cash. But when you place them, you feel good about them. The only one that I still have left is a Jalen Hurts ticket that we gave out early in the year. Hurts right now is plus 2,800. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm not doubling down. This Eagles team man, they're so frustrating to watch. But they have so many highs and so many lows, and I'm not there yet. I think I need a better price on Hurts. I will say one that I'm really intrigued about. I want to fade Mahomes in this market. Like, you think about the way the season has shook out, and I was high on Mahomes just for like fantasy and leading the league and passing and all those sort of things, but all the offseason analysis is gone, right? Because there's no Hollywood, there's no Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy's still taking his time. Travis Kelce, we'll see how he pans out through the course of the year. It's Juju as the guy, and what could go wrong? Now, he did win the award, previously, and he put up a great season last year just doing this and winning the Super Bowl with a ragtag crew. So I guess it could happen again, but at plus 360, like, that just feels so off to me. So I'm fading Mahomes in this market. I like Lamar at this price right now with how he's played. If I was setting the lines, like, I think I would make Lamar the favorite. He has been unreal this season. Currently on pace to smash his season best as a passer. He's on pace for 4,300 yards throwing the football. 8.7 YPA, that'd also be the best of his career. And you think about how the outlook is for the Ravens moving forward. They've got the third easiest strength of schedule per Warren Sharp. He's third in EPA per play right now. And in the alternative markets on DraftKings, the win total is 11.5 with the over at minus 145. So they're telling us, like, it's very likely this Ravens team is winning 11, 12, 13, maybe 14 games. If that happens, Lamar is going to certainly skyrocket in price. So I love this play right now. I got it on teasers this morning at plus 575. That's the best line I could find. But I just think right now is a good time to go in on Lamar, especially ahead of this week's game. They get the Bucs in primetime Monday night, so all eyes will be on Lamar. All eyes are going to be on that matchup. So I want to play it now before that primetime game. But if I'm going to add to my portfolio right now, I'm going to grab Lamar. I think it moves closer to Mahomes after this week.
Yeah, I can't imagine betting Mahomes right now as a favorite. Josh Allen is interesting, but also like the counting stats are going to be held against him from you comparison with these other dudes. Is there any value plays further down the board that you like? So I'm just playing out scenarios here. Baker Mayfield is 30-1, leads the league in touchdown passes. We think there's going to be regression. But let's say Baker hits 40 passing touchdowns. He's on pace for almost 43 right now. If he hits 40 passing touchdowns and the Bucks win the division, they're a top 2 seed, right? They're 4-2 right now.
Correct.
I feel like that's not insane. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's how I'm playing it out.
Yeah, I mean, at a long shot like that, I think that's fine. Their win total right now live is 9.5. So you'd have to still have a very high-end tail outcome happen for Baker to hit this, obviously, which is why the odds are the way they are. But yeah, I mean, if they win 10, 11 games and, the Ravens happen to stumble or the Bills stumble or whatever, like, I think it's viable. It's tough to see it. So for me, it'd be like one of those just, let's throw a dart and kind of hope for the best.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Jordan Love? He's plus 2,200.
Okay,
on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, so Jordan Love's TD rate is at 8.2 right now.
That's not going to stand.
No, it's also wild to see somebody who has a TD rate as high as his and a completion rate below 60%. Like, it's just like there's something very off. They've thrown a ton inside the red zone. So I think some of that will shift, that like you get some more of these Josh Jacobs games or just games where it's like he's not throwing for 4.
Yeah.
And that's not happening again. They have a tough schedule rest of the season.
Yeah, the hardest in the NFL per sharp.
Yeah, so I think Love is Love is a fun fantasy quarterback who will have games where he absolutely implodes. Like just like so bad that you're like, why is this guy a quarterback? And the next week he'll throw 4 touchdowns. So I can't really go there. Burrow's interesting. They're just not going to get enough wins.
Yeah, that's my concern too. 2-4 right now, barely squeaking by the Giants. If he goes on a run and like they're incredible, then yeah, sure. I just don't think you're getting paid off enough with these odds. So I think for me, my only play that I'm really interested in is Lamar right now.
Yeah, Lamar, Baker is a long shot, and then I can't really see myself wanting to go anywhere else. Now, let me just gonna throw it out there. We know this is a quarterback award, but let's say Derrick Henry ends up with 20 plus rushing touchdowns.
He'll win Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay, well, let's talk about that award next, because right now he is the favorite at plus 160, which if you don't know that much about betting markets, these are 2 completely different awards, although you're like, why doesn't this overlap? Like Derrick Henry's the favorite Offensive Player of the Year. MVP right now, he is 60-1 with worse odds than Caleb Williams. So talk to me about Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think it's Derrick Henry's award to lose, honestly. I mean, we just talked about Lamar, and they are, like I said, projected to win a ton of games. The splits this year, and in his career really, but this year especially, when the Ravens have won, his stat lines are just unreal. He's got a rushing touchdown, at least one in every game. It's really hard to poke holes in the spot for him. I'm not betting it because it's tough in an award like this where you miss the best number clearly weeks and weeks ago. Just the injury rate at running back is so high. Like, I just don't know that there's a ton of value on the line. I think it's right, and I think it's his award to lose, but I'm not betting it personally. I do have some interest though, Kyle, in a value play, if you will, down the board.
I like some value.
Who doesn't?
I will say there is a play on the board that I like, but you go first.
Oh, okay, great. This was a man last year at this point in the season after 6 weeks who was 13th in catches among all wide receivers. He was 11th in yards, and he went on an absolute tear out of the bye week. This team enters the bye week this week. The sky is falling. The team is horrible. They can't do anything. CeeDee Lamb's workload after the bye week is going to be obscene. I mean, they're going to throw over and over again. He's going to get targeted like crazy. And like I said, we kind of already saw this last year. But currently, he's better than he was last year. 5th among all wide receivers in yards, 7th in yards per game. Like, I just think the upcoming schedule sets up so well for him to see just so many touches and targets in great matchups. So they have the bye week this week. They come out of it. They get San Francisco. But listen to this run of matchups. Atlanta, Philly, Houston, Washington, the Giants, Cincy, Carolina, Tampa, Philly again, Washington again to close the season. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to go bonkers down the stretch. So I think he's interesting. The best line I saw was plus 2,200 on FanDuel. I'm debating waiting a week though. Like they're on bye, so like his odds aren't going to get better or worse. But I think some of these guys could kind of have a nice game and give us some more value potentially on CeeDee Lamb. So I'm waiting a week, but Lamb is one I have circled.
I get the thought process.
Oh, you hate it.
But I've just been here before. It feels like I'm in the middle of that Star Wars meme, the Anakin Skywalker and the Padme one where they're going back and forth.
Yep.
And he reads off the stat line. It's, he goes 135 receptions, 1,749 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And she goes, he won the Offensive Player of the Year, right? Right? And he didn't.
Yeah, that was sad.
He did not win last year.
That was so sad.
It's super sad. Dude. Anyway, so I get it. I think the value's there, and I think that you could probably bet it like next week, you said, the week after
the bye week.
Yeah. I think Jamar Chase at his price has a legit shot of getting, let's say, 1,800 yards. And let's say he hits who's he at 5 touchdowns right now? Let's say he hits like 15. You'd really need Derrick Henry to fall off. Obviously, the narrative of the team is not great. But the counting stats are there. So I don't really love going down the board. I'm like, Kyron, he could hit 20 touchdowns, but are they going to be a winning team? No. Remember when we bet Drake London though?
What did we get him at? 150 to 1 or something like that?
Yeah.
Back in March.
The value is cashing in right now.
Hey, Drake London's been good, man. Drake London's good. I think that one's long gone. But yeah, I think Lamb's interesting. CD and Jamar Chase are in play. I think Henry's rightfully, like I said, the favorite. I'm just not betting it. I just don't. There's just such a high re-injury rate at running back that personally I'm not going to play it.
All right, real quickly, Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's Jaden Daniels to lose. We're not going to bet it at minus 195. But do you see anything else on here? Is Malik Neighbors still in play at 11 to 1?
So we gave him out on our show, and we did this in August. I think it was plus 2,200. So if you already have a Neighbors ticket, I'm just holding and hoping and praying. We need him to play this week with the concussion issues. But, I think he's okay at this price. I don't love it. I would say the only one that I'm like, maybe would be Caleb Williams. The Bears have come on lately. Caleb's played very well. Obviously, the matchups have been favorable, but I think it's Jaden's to lose. So this is one that I just might sit out the rest of the year and just, hat tip to Jaden Daniels. If he gets injured, that's the only way I think he loses this award because Washington's offense has just been so good, and he's involved in so many other touchdowns. With the ability to run at the goal line, obviously their passing touchdowns, it just goes through him. So I think Jaden Daniels is rightfully the favorite, and just it's his to lose in my opinion.
Yeah, if they make the playoffs, if they just make the playoffs, he wins this award.
Easy.
Yeah. I can't really see anything else on here that I'm excited about. Also with Caleb Williams, I did get to watch that London game, and it was a combination of he played well, and I really think the Jaguars are that bad.
Oh, they're horrendous. So bad.
At least they just get to take a whole week, relax, and do it all over again in London.
The London Jaguars. They get the Patriots. The folks overseas are treated to a London game of Jaguars and Patriots on Sunday morning. So, hey, let's grow the game internationally. Let's get these two powerhouses on the national stage. And we'll see what happens.
That is the most American. We're going to send over the Patriots. That's who we're going to do, just to stick it to you guys, because in the 1700s, we stuck it to you guys.
I saw someone put this out on Twitter. It was very funny. They posted the screenshot of the game line of Patriots and Jaguars and just said, this is the worst thing we've done to England since the Revolutionary War. I just thought that was hilarious.
Dude, great work, schedule makers. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll move on. We are moving on to week 7, and this is a 10-game slate. So we mentioned there's a London game. There's 2 games on Monday night. So that kind of does shift things, and we have 2 teams on bye. So it's a 10-game slate. I really like how this slate sets up. So it is heavy in the early window, and there's only 3 games in the afternoon. So it does kind of change where the chalk is going to be, how things condense, but there are a healthy 1, 2, 3, there's 5 games that are currently sitting at 47 or above. So there's a lot to like on this slate. We have 2 games right now that are above 50. Carolina at Washington is at 52. Seattle at Atlanta. Once again, you walk into Mercedes-Benz, don't expect to win.
Not up in here.
No, that is going to be an awesome game. That one's at 51. So which teams have the highest team implied totals for this week?
Commanders, man, leading the way, 29.8.
Wild.
The Falcons are hot right now. 26.8. Minnesota coming out of their bye week, they're at 26. The Bills at 25.5, and then the Packers at 25.
When you saw Washington sitting at basically 30 points on their team implied, like it shocked me. Not because obviously they've been good on every single EPA metric. It's like, wow, Washington's awesome on offense. But 30 points, man, is a lot in this economy of 2024 NFL.
I don't think it's enough. Well, we'll talk about it. I don't think it's enough.
Okay. It was jarring. Okay. As someone who's apparently new to the NFL, I've been gone for a week. I come back and I see the Commanders and the Falcons as the 2 highest of the week.
This is the world we live in now, Kyle.
All right. So you think we're talking about games that are popular to stack. Washington at Carolina has the highest total of the week. Tell me why people are going to like it.
Yeah. 2 bad offenses that you can throw against. I mean, with Carolina, you can run against them too. Washington, you can give us
2 bad defenses.
Just the defenses are terrible. And the offenses, especially with Andy Dalton there, can put up points. And when you look at the pricing, like Daniels is expensive as the quarterback 1. Terry's, I would say reasonable, but like Ertz is cheap. Andy Dalton is dirt cheap. Chuba is still totally fine. Like the pass catchers, Deontay is still too cheap. Like it's just cheap and the total's there and the defenses are terrible. So I think naturally people are going to gravitate towards this game stack.
So I'd love to go through this task. We can look it up a little bit later. What do you think this line was? Because we get all the lines from DraftKings ahead of the season. What do you think this line was before the season? I'm going to put it at like 42.
Oh, the total? Yeah. The number that came to mind was 44.5.
Okay. We can look that up and find some historical stuff. But like, I guarantee this was not a game that you circled for week 7 and say, this is going to be the best game of the week. Everyone's going to love this one.
NFL is so wild, man. You can't predict anything. Let's be honest.
I know, it makes it super fun. So Seattle, Atlanta, I think a lot of people are going to play this. Atlanta is number 1 in seconds per play. Seattle is number 3 in seconds per play. And their pass rate over the last 3 weeks has gone through the roof. Seattle over the last 3 weeks, 76% is number 1 in the NFL. And Atlanta is 65%, third highest. And I put out these numbers, but Atlanta for the first 3 weeks, their game plan was really simple. Let's just fart around and find out what happens. And then over the last 3 weeks, it's been, let's let Kirk throw the ball. And last week, you kind of got to see a little bit more of a balanced approach where they could run the ball, but that's also Carolina. So I think this game's just going to have so many just not only plays, so the pace is great. I'm looking at my early pace of play article stuff, my metrics. This is like trending towards a 4.5, which is a lot for me to give out that early, because the pass rate's just through the roof. So I feel like the volume's there. There's so many different options too in this game to play. So I feel like this one is going to be one of the more popular ones of the week.
All right, sneaky games. Let's go to yours first. I want to hear your sneaky game.
I could be wrong, but sneaky here, I have Philadelphia and the Giants. It's a little bit below the radar. I feel like it's a game not a lot of people are going to play. The big thing is Saquon revenge game. It's what people are going to talk about. But there are some easy correlation plays. If you want to take a Philadelphia player, whether that be Saquon or one of the wide receivers, and then correlate them with one of the wide receivers on the Giants side, then I feel like you're going to set yourself up pretty well. Neighbors is still kind of a wait and see. Like, do we have any update of where he's at in the process?
So late in the week last week, he was doing more on the side than he did the week prior. So it sounds like he's progressing decently well. But he needs at least a limited practice on Wednesday to have a chance for this week. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, I could see it. And I think the nice thing about this game, if you think about the passing game specifically, like if Neighbors is there, it goes through him. Obviously, we know that. With Dallas Goedert likely to miss this game, there's no question it's going through A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and no one else. So you could very easily get like a mini correlation there or a ton of targets in, you know, those 3 guys, that it makes it kind of a fun back and forth. So yeah, I think it's interesting as well. And obviously we're still waiting on Tyron Tracy and Devin Singletary situation to play out, but Tyrone Tracy is also affordable on this slate if you wanted to look there.
Yeah, I think there's just some interesting correlation plays. If you're wanting to get away from the chalk of the other game and just say, I'm playing a running back, I'm playing Saquon and a Giants wide receiver, you can do that. You have Green Bay and Houston. I feel like Green Bay has just been in a lot of games that we've been talking about for stacking purposes.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like one of those tier 2 games where the total's at 47.5, so it doesn't really jump off the page to you a ton. But when I look at these two offenses, I think about two offenses that are just capable of big plays, and that speeds up the game and can really lead to a bunch of shootouts. In the Jordan Love starts for the Packers this year, they've scored 29, 29, 24, and 34 points. So the offense has been humming with Love under center. And, the defense for Houston, I think is very good. They lead the NFL in pressure rate, but I'm just not sure they're as good as maybe the numbers say because they've played Anthony Richardson, Caleb, Sam Darnold, and got absolutely smacked. Trevor Lawrence, the Bills was kind of a slog, and then they played the Patriots. 4 of 6 of their team, of their opponents rather, have hit their team total. So even against that matchup of quarterbacks that it's not that good, they're still getting home as far as the opposing offense. So I think Love can get it done here, and then if CJ Stroud is pushed, obviously we know what he can do. So I think this game is interesting. I could see a path where it goes south because both offenses play a little bit slow, but really what you're counting on here is the big plays.
In terms of games that I want to be underweight on this next week, Tennessee and Buffalo is at 42.5. Buffalo is a heavy home favorite. And I just wrote, I don't want to be tempted by not only the Bills, but anything to do with the Titans other than Tony Pollard. You're just playing with fire. The matchup's good for Pollard, but Will Levis, I'm trying to figure out the best way to articulate this because I was going through some of the team's metrics and their EPA per pass is downright detrimental. I mean, I know some people got to see Calvin Ridley's targets. Andy posted them the other day. If you just want to see the air quote targets.
Targets, yes. That's a nice word for what those were.
Yeah, I mean, they would have been better if he just threw it in the dirt. That's if you really run the numbers, that's how bad it's been. Will Levis thinks he wants to be Josh Allen. He is not Josh Allen. So I just don't see myself wanting to go there with this game. It's hard for me to see it shooting out. And who can you have confidence in on the Buffalo side at all as a pass catcher? Nobody at all.
I mean, Shakir, maybe. He wasn't 100% healthy last night. So coming off the ankle injury, they limited his snaps. Maybe he was healthy and he could just have a PPR type game. But otherwise, yeah, I'm with you.
The Titans defense has been solid. They've been in games. That's the problem is they've been in good game scripts where they've been close. And one player on this team, we don't know who it is, but one of them has really screwed it over for $1 billion organization. We're
trying to figure out who did this. Yeah, it's over, I think for Levis moving forward here. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to start, but I think the Mason Rudolph whispers are going to become
his career's over
pretty loud soon. I mean, he might stick around as a backup, but yeah, I think Rudolph starting
his
games.
His career's over.
Would you say Rudolph starts, let's say, over under week 9 and a half?
They're going to lose this week. It's just, it's comical. It's not even at the point now where it's oh man, there's just one play and we were really close. It's comical. If you are Brian Callahan to look at your game plan throughout the week and you literally say to yourself, I know this won't work. That's where it's at now. It's not even we're competitive. This guy can bring us over the top. This guy is actively hurting your team when he drops back to pass.
Okay, sounds like under 9.5. This is what Kyle's opinion is there.
We're in political season, right? You answer a question with a rambling question.
Exactly. That's the way to do it. Speaking of quarterbacks who are terrible, the Browns played this week again, and Cincinnati-Cleveland, the game is 43 at the total. Cincinnati favored by 4.5. The Browns haven't hit their team total at all this year, and I know the matchup is good. Cincy can give it up, but are they going to be able to take advantage of this matchup? I don't think so. Their games are 4-2 to the under with Deshaun Watson, who's just been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league going back to last year. The only quarterbacks with the lower success rate going back to last season are Tommy DeVito and Bailey Zappi. So he is absolutely atrocious. And at the same time, Cincy's play volume hasn't really been that good. 58 plays per game right now is 29th in the league. So you're counting on big plays from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which they've been able to do. But now you get a matchup with Cleveland where the game environment is gross. I just don't think you get there. So I'm underweight Cincinnati and Cleveland this week.
I can say that the team that I've watched the least this year out of the 32 teams is the Browns.
There's no need.
Good. They're bad. Team most confident hitting the over. So I talked earlier about Seattle and Atlanta. I'm going to say the Seattle team is a team that I want to invest in this week in DFS. Their team implied totals at 24. Seattle games have hit the over in 5 of 6. They've hit their team implied total in all but one game, and they're third in plays per game. So I think Geno, we'll talk about him in salary standouts. I think he's a really good play at his price point this week, and I think the Seattle passing game and team overall is one you want to buy into.
All right, I mentioned Washington. I said I don't think their team total is enough. I think we're getting 30 from Daniels and the Commanders this week.
An over from Betz.
An over. You made me. This is for the show. You made me do this. 4 of 6 opponents have gone over this line specifically. So 4 of 6 opponents against Carolina have scored at least 30 points, and 3 straight have done it. The Falcons this past week, the Bears, and Cincy in the past 3 weeks have put up 38, 36, and 34 points. On the year, Carolina is 28th in EPA per play, 27th in yards per play, and they're 31st in opponent red zone touchdown rate, meaning when guys or teams getting close, they're finding the end zone over and over again. And Washington, with that zone read at the goal line inside the 10-yard line, it's so tough to stop. I think Washington can get there with 30 points.
All right, the team that I am most confident hitting the under of their team implied total, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Las Vegas Raiders are an NFL team. They're not an NFL team.
Barely.
I'm not really sure anymore because I bet most people cannot name who their wide receivers are outside of Jacoby Myers. They might be able to throw out Trey Tucker. You get beyond that and you go, because Devontae Adams just got traded as of our recording right now. He hasn't been on the team for a couple weeks, but officially not on the team anymore. They're averaging just 18.2 points per game. Their offense is very one-dimensional. They're 4th in pass rate, and they can't run the ball, dead last in EPA per rush. Imagine watching a Zamir White montage of runs this year. I'm going to do that just for the sickos out there. Just put it together.
Well, and you're not going to find many because it's Madison season, Kyle. When he's the engine of the offense, I mean, we're joking, of course, it's Brock Bowers, but when Madison is the engine of your offense, the identity of the ground game, I'm not shocked it hasn't gone great for the Raiders. Yeah, what do you have, 18.5 points here? 15 feels too high for this offense right now.
Yeah, I mean, so they went in this offseason. Luke Getsy, by the way, who's another one of our coordinators that we go, that guy should not have a job in the NFL. I have a list, by the way. Nathaniel Hackett, Shane Waldron, I think he's getting a pass because they just played the Jaguars, but Luke Getsy, they should not. I also wanted to bring this up because I've gotten a lot of good feedback in our Discord. I'm planning on taking the Rams as of right now in my survivor pool, and I am just on a heater, man. I mean, just
who'd you play last week?
Laser focused. I played the Ravens.
Okay, nice.
Which actually was a very unpopular pick.
I mean, people love the Commanders, man.
I know, but overall, it was a pretty chalky week in survivor pool. But the Rams at home, 5.5 point favorites coming off the bye against the Raiders. I mean, just early vibes, man. Is that feeling good about that?
Yeah, especially if they get Cooper Kupp back, which it sounds like they will. So
really,
they could get Cooper Kupp back. He had a positive workout on Monday. We'll know more when they get to practice on Wednesday, Thursday. But they were targeting this week as his return. It's 5 weeks off the high ankle sprain, so I think he's actually going to be pretty healthy this week. So yeah, if they get Cooper Kupp back, especially, I think it's a good spot coming out of the bye week to get healthy, taking on the Raiders, who there's not many good things to say right now. So I love it, actually.
Positive workout. What would be a negative workout?
He gets injured during the workout, re-injured.
Is that okay? So like if I went to the gym and I came back and I told him, it was a pretty negative workout, that means I got hurt. But if it was positive, I was looking good in my reps.
Exactly. That's exactly what that means.
Okay. All right. So if you want to ride with me, Rams, I've had some people in Discord that wanted to ride. That's where I'm at right now. You have a team that has been maybe the most inconsistent team in the NFL.
So frustrating, man. The Cardinals in weeks 1 and 2 looked like, oh baby, like here we go. Their defense can't stop anyone. Their offense is good. Like this is what you want for fantasy. It's what we're seeing with Washington. Come out of the gate on fire with Arizona. Weeks 1 and 2, they were 34.5 points per game. Since then, 16 points per game. That's 28th. They're dead last in plays per game. They're barely in the red zones. They're not in scoring position. And now they might not have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's in concussion protocol. They take on the Chargers this week. And that Chargers team, they just play to the under with their play style. Their games are 4-1 to the under. 4 of 5 teams they face have gone under their team total. And the Chargers play slow, 32nd in seconds per play, and they're third in rush rate, which just drains play volume, drains the clock. So I'll take under 21.5 on Arizona, just especially with the Marv injury. I think it's a good spot to go under.
Yeah, they play on Monday night, so we'll get to preview that game for those that you want to play the doubleheader with us. Let's take a quick break, and we'll get to salary standouts. Is it just me, or have I been like pretty talkative, pretty like, hey man, what's going on? Like, we just hadn't talked in a while.
Dude, you're really into the water cooler talk this week.
That is true. Like, we don't really have a place that you and I get to do that at. So
we don't have a
podcast
water cooler to go to.
No, I never really worked in an office. I mean, I guess we did have a water cooler at Fantasy Footballers HQ. I would use it more for some hot tea.
Nice.
You like a good hot tea, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Salary standouts.
Salary standouts.
On Tuesday, Betz and I get to look through the values that we find, the players that stand out to us on DraftKings. We'll throw out some FanDuel names as well. Add these to your pool of players. We also, if you have the DFS pass, you have a first look article. You have Betz's Vegas report that gets you kind of set up for the week. And I just want to remind you, like, DFS is a process throughout the week. So a Tuesday or Wednesday is a great opportunity for you to listen and then just write down some names, add some to your spreadsheets, whatever your process is, and kind of figure out where your priors are for the week. So I've already kind of circled Seattle, Atlanta. I've already said, like, man, I'm kind of curious about this Washington line. Betz is different than me. So you kind of get to label everything early in the week. But as of Tuesday, I really like the cheap quarterbacks. And I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like Geno at 5.8 and Andy Dalton at 5.2 are both in situations where we know they're going to have to throw against defenses that give it up. So that's my early take in the week, is that I like the cheap quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think they're both solid. I mean, Geno's just been throwing so much. It's kind of funny. The touchdown passes just literally every week. One. That's all he throws. But eventually he's going to have a ceiling game. So yeah, this is a good spot. You talked about the pass rate back and forth with Seattle and Atlanta. I think Geno's in play. I like Dalton more for tournaments for me personally, but at 5,200, I mean, that is so cheap. At the high end, I love Jaden Daniels. We talked about the team total. I'm just in on that. Taking on Carolina, I mean, he's just been so consistent. 20 plus DK points in 5 of 6 games. He's unreal. 22.7 DK points per game this year. Jaden Daniels, it feels like too light against this Carolina matchup here. So I love Jaden Daniels if you want to spend up at the top at quarterback.
Yeah, it is crazy to say he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate, but when you match that with team implied totals and how consistent, like, he's been 20 plus points in 5 of 6 starts. So you're getting a crazy floor. It's hard to figure out what his ceiling games look like. And by ceiling, I mean like 30 plus, because I want 20, 24 points. And then, I want access to the Lamar games where you're getting 30 plus. And Love is having games like that too. So any worried about them just like cruising to victory and milking the clock on the ground, or does it matter?
I just don't think their defense is capable of that. They just lost defensive tackle Jonathan Allen to a pec injury, I believe it was, too. So they just lost another starter on defense. I think Carolina can put up points. Like, we've seen them fight back whenever Andy Dalton's been under center. The only time they didn't was against the Bears 2 weeks ago, which was pretty predictable. But otherwise, in Dalton starts, they're able to put up points. So I just think this game has a good chance to go back and forth. And that should keep Jaden pushing as far as downfield passes and running a ton. So yeah, you're right. We haven't seen an explosion from him yet, but we need like a two rushing touchdown game, like, and a deep passing touchdown type of performance. I mean, against Carolina, I think it could certainly happen.
Yes. And going to running back, like, I think Chuba Hubbard and Brian Robinson, if he plays, are both solid tags. Like, Chuba's been 20 plus touches, like, routinely. He's 6.5. And looking at the Commanders' defense, they've given up the most explosive plays in the NFL. So on the ground, I think he's a strong play if you wanted to play Jaden in cash. And if you had to pick a Panther, like, you're going to maybe pick Chuba and just say, do we know anything about Jonathan Brooks? Because, like, I left and I feel like I come back and he's still at the same spot.
So they're going to activate him this week. Or not activate him, but open the window, 21 days for him. It's going to be several weeks before we see him with a full workload. So it's going to be the Chuba show at least this week, probably next, probably the week after. Remember, Jonathan Brooks hasn't practiced at all with this team since being drafted. not in training camp, not in mini camp, any of that stuff. So he's been at practice. He hasn't done anything football related with this team. It's going to take probably a month and a half until he's kind of up to speed. So yeah, it's going to be the Chuba show moving forward here.
So a rookie who shows up to class, doesn't do any of the work, doesn't take any of the tests, and just wants a free pass?
Sounds like it's me. I can't say I haven't done that in my life, but yeah, it's fine.
He was our favorite prospect, so I
I love him.
It's a little sad.
Yeah, I hope in like December he's kind of unleashed, but I mean, obviously this team isn't doing anything this year, so what's the point?
All right, in the high price range, Saquon's 8.2 in a revenge spot against the Giants. Kyren is 8.1. I mentioned that Rams game earlier. He feels so safe. You know you're going to get a touchdown. They're at home. So those are the two guys that are high up that I'm like, I'm probably going to play one of them.
I love Kyren this week, man. They're favored coming out of the bye week. It's just such a good spot against the Raiders. Like, for weeks, Najee was looking like he was running through quicksand. And last week, Najee looked so explosive against this defense. Like, the matchup's there. I think Kyron's the best spend up, in my opinion. In the mid-range, Tony Pollard without Tajay Spears this week, and even with Tajay Spears, was projecting really well in this kind of like low 6K range. Now you take out Spears with the hamstring injury, and you get Buffalo has been getting crushed on the ground. So I think Tony Pollard is very strong at 6,300.
I did want to mention Joe Mixon. He's 7.2, so he's not cheap. He's on the road. I think he's an interesting bring back in that game if you wanted to stack up Jordan Love. This is more for tournaments, but Joe Mixon came back. He only had 15 touches. Was like, oh, is that a lot? But half of them were inside the red zone. So it's kind of like what they've been doing. CJ Stroud's 8-odd. If you just look at what they did this past week with Nico out, it's been like, okay, we're going to go short. So I think Joe Mixon's a strong play in tournaments. If you want to play him at that price point, just wanted to mention him there. And then I needed to mention Tony P because he's the only thing that is working for the Titans. And the Bills are 31st in EPA per rush, 31st in scheduled adjusted fantasy points allowed to the running backs, and they've allowed the most running back receptions. So it's like a great combo. I don't love playing a running back on the road who is more than a touchdown dog, but he's basically their offense.
Yep, I'm with you. I'd also throw out to Eckler, 5,900, just if Brian Robinson is still not available against Carolina is totally in play. And real quick on Mixon, I feel like, he's always such a good tournament play. Because whenever you think about Joe Mixon, like, isn't the feeling like he'll kind of like plod his way there? Like, maybe he gets you 15, 16, 17 points, but like in your head, you're like, you'll never give me 25. But like, he's been really good this year. And obviously he should be more healthy this week coming off the high ankle sprain. And if the game stays closer and you kind of see a situation where he gets the bulk of the touches, pushes 80+% of the snaps, like, I think Mixon has a really high ceiling this week. So I like that call early in the week.
Also, I need to point out Ray Davis just because he showed out on Monday night. He's 5.2 on DraftKings, 5.4 on FanDuel. We'll kind of see what it's James Cook's toe, right?
Yes, left toe. Turf toe.
Jimbo's left toe is a big talking point this week.
Dude, and what's the worst about that too, like for season-long leagues? If you planned on this, and I talked about this on the Injury Blitz pod, but his agency came out on like Thursday or Friday and was like, he's playing this week. He's going to play this week. Why? Why are you doing that to us? Like, why would you even bother? And then, of course, he's ruled out. So if you planned on like having him Monday, you couldn't get Ray Davis or something, like, it's just, that kind of stuff's the worst.
Yeah, I tried to play it real cool by picking up Ty Johnson like a day ahead and dangling him in front of the manager of James Cook. He's like, no, dude, I don't care about Ty Johnson.
He was right.
So whatever. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson is 8.5. He's at home, and he's against the Lions. Justin Jefferson at home, by the way, in his career, I have some of those stats in the First Look article, is historic, as in like best wide receiver of all time at home. So if you want to play Justin Jefferson in cash and just say, I feel good about it, you can do that. Amon-Ra, same thing. That game, like, those two offenses are going to have to throw because teams are throwing against Minnesota 73% of the time. It's the highest rate in the NFL. And the Lions, they're seeing the second highest pass rate. So I feel like there's a lot of volume there. There's also some cheap plays. Like, it shocked me that Jordan Addison is only 5.6. I mean, that is a very cheap tag in that game. So the passing offense in that game is going to be one that I attack in tournaments, but also I think in cash you could play one or two of those guys.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. In the dome, 2 pass funnels, like it makes so much sense to me, especially Addison. If we're waiting to see on Hawkinson, I'm not sure you'd run like a full, allotment of routes or whatever. They might save him for one more week, but even if he's in, I think he's a great tournament play. If he's out, I think Addison might become cash viable. Just the matchup is there and the pass rate should be there. So yeah, I like that call early in the week.
In the high 6K range, there's a bunch of dudes that are going to project super well. Deontay Johnson at 6.6 just feels like he's in our cash game pool until he hits 7K, and then we'll figure it out from there. But DK Metcalf 6.8, Devonta Smith and Drake London at 6.9. All of those dudes are going to project super well below 7K.
Yep. Deontay 10 plus targets in 3 of the 4 games with Andy Dalton. Now gets the Commanders. So yes, please. I love Neighbors if he's active. We'll see on that. Remember, he's been the target leader in the NFL in targets per game when he's played. So he's just been so dominant as far as earning targets. Philly's dealing with an issue with Darius Slay of an injury. I just don't think there's anybody that can stop him. So I love Neighbors if he plays. And I did just want to point out, I'm not playing him this week. I just want to point it out. Like, how sad is it that Jalen Waddle is 5,300 against the Colts? I mean, come on, man. So that's just my depressed take of the week.
What if I told you the Colts are 28th in EPA per pass and 27th in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to wide receivers?
Tyler Huntley double stack for the win?
The Colts can't tackle anybody. I watched part of that game too, and I was like, why are they just letting people run free? It's like they don't care. They didn't deserve to win. But Will Levis said, I think you will. I think you do deserve to win. Falcons as a whole are really cheap on FanDuel. Like Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kirk Cousins are really cheap on FanDuel's side. JSN also in that game is super cheap. So those are the ones, if you want to attack FanDuel, I really like that game environment a lot. Any other dudes? Can I give you some punt names?
Love a good punt.
Okay, well, I've got 4, which I usually don't.
Wow.
Yeah, these are guys 4K and below, which would you say that's 2024 punt territory for DK wide receivers, right?
For sure. I would even say 5K and below.
Oh, well, I'm going 4, man. I'm riding dirty here. Juju Smith-Schuster at 4K against the 49ers. You're just going to give me your quick reaction.
Yeah, he's probably safe for 8 to 10 points.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not telling you they're punts for a reason.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But, okay, Noah Brown, who plays for Washington, is 4K. It's against the Panthers. He was second on the team in routes run this past year, and it actually says in his contract that he's supposed to show up like 2 to 3 times a year.
Did see 8 targets last week. He would be GPP only for me.
Have you ever seen Denny Carter, who, if you don't follow CD Carter 13, he's a great follow, but he talks about like what fantasy football analysis was like 10 years ago and what it is today. Like 10 years ago, it was like, this guy saw targets last week. And then now in 2024, it's like, this guy had a 17% targets per route run on press coverage against cover 3 in the fourth quarter. Don't start him.
Yep. You can get way too in the weeds with some of this stuff, it's fun to go down those paths, but eventually it's like, let's just play the guys that are going to get targets in a good matchup and hope for the best.
For sure. And especially when you start talking about defensive coverages, we kind of mostly stay away from talking about cornerback matchups because it's zone. There are certain cornerbacks, you talk about L'Jarius Sneed or whoever, it's like, okay, they're going to shadow. But like also, even when we talk about coverages, I always am a little worried. It's like this team employs cover 4 19% of the time. It's like, am I really going to make my decision based on what they see 19% of the time, and this guy has seen 4 targets against it all year?
Correct. Don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do that. Okay, so Juju, Noah Brown, Tim Patrick, who now plays for the Lions at 3.5.
Tim was like an all-star this past week. I mean, everybody did against the Cowboys. I think if you're playing the game and you want to tack on a cheap stacking partner with Goff, that would be in play. Or a Darnold stack and a bring back, that's in play. But I don't know if I could go there in cash. Just with the running back touches, with Amon-Ra so likely to see more in this game than he did last week, I don't think it's a great cash play. But I mean, I get it. The price is right.
Yep, he's the wide receiver 3 there. I'm just trying to find guys that are cheap for us that we could talk about. Okay, I got to throw out one more. Last one. Your boy DJ Turner.
This is nasty.
Of the Raiders.
This is nasty.
Okay. He plays for the Raiders. He was targeted. Trey Tucker, by the way, was a cardio king this past week. But DJ Turner, if Jacoby Myers is out or if we know that he's going to be a full-time player, I mean, they had some randos running. Bachman, who I did not know was a player, showed up on my game cast, and I was like, who is this guy? But DJ Turner is a cheap play. You could add him in cash. Also,
don't play him in cash.
Georgia boy.
Do not play DJ Turner in cash.
Dude, it's Tuesday. The people need to know these names.
Okay, it's fine. I'm just saying I'm not playing DJ Turner in cash. Not with this offense and the pass rate that doesn't exist.
That's fine. Just I do get to throw out that he was a former state champion at North Gwinnett High School, where I played baseball growing up. So there you go. Tight end. There's some exciting. There's a narrative at play with Kelsey and Kittle in the same game. They're expensive, 6.3 and 6K. Kittle's been unreal this year, man. We used to always say with Kittle, it's okay, he's up and down. You can't really trust him. You can trust George Kittle. He's been awesome this year. And Brock Bowers at 5.8. So of the expensive guys, are you interested in any of them in cash this week?
I actually think it's a decent week to punt. Not that these guys aren't awesome plays every week, just with the ceiling. Kittle specifically, I think he's benefited so much from no McCaffrey, where McCaffrey would get a lot of those short area targets. They're not really throwing to Jordan Mason. So Kittle has gotten a lot of that usage. So I think Kittle is awesome for tournaments, just in a huge ceiling game here, potentially with the Chiefs. But for cash, I actually kind of like spending down. And it's been a long time since you got a true gross punt play that you're like, you know what, give me 5-6 targets and pray. Jatavian Sanders saw 7 targets last week, and now rookie for the Panthers, 2,900 on DraftKings, now gets the Commanders. So I think he's an interesting play for cash.
Yeah, the punt plays I'm seeing, Noah Fant is 3.5. He ran the most routes of any tight end this past week, 43 routes, and we talked about that game a lot. He's at 3.5, so I think he's fine. But we know Noah Fant, he's really good at letting you down. Theo Johnson, brother Theo, is at 2.8. He ran the third most routes of any tight end, and he's going to be out there against Philadelphia. So I don't mind if you want to punt Fant, Theo Johnson, Jatavian Sanders, one of those dudes. I'm totally fine with it. Now, Jatavian, Tommy Tremble was out this past week, correct?
I know he was questionable coming in. I'm not sure if he played or not, to be honest with you.
Okay, not that he matters too much. Also a former Georgia boy. But I don't think, I don't mind punting this week. I think early in the week, it looks like I'm going to pay down at quarterback. I'm going to get somebody like Kyron and a 6K running back, maybe get a stud wide receiver, and then punt at tight end. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Tommy Tremble did not play, for those wondering.
See, I knew that there was some void that I felt from this past week, and that was it. Tommy Tremble did not play. At defense, I hate saying it, but you have it on here too. Cleveland is 2.5. They've had a couple rough games, but if you really go through their game logs, and it's kind of the same thing as the Titans. Their defense has played fine. Their quarterback has been a train wreck, and they're at home. They're against Joe Burrow. So I think Cleveland at 2.5 is fine. The Giants at 2.5 is fine. The Vikings are a high upside team below 3K that if you want to go there, you can do it. So defense, I feel like there's a lot of different areas to go, especially in tournaments.
For sure, yeah. I think the Browns are my favorite cash cheap play, and just get your 7 or 8 points and kind of move on. But with the Bengals, they're dropping back so much, so you just get so many opportunities for sacks and turnovers, that kind of thing. The reason they've struggled so much is just Watson's putting them in such terrible positions. They're on the field all the time because they can't sustain drives. So that's why they've been terrible, but they still have talent. And when you have Burrow dropping back so much, I think there's a possibility there for enough points. So in cash games, I think Cleveland are in play. 2,500, very, very cheap.
If you want to play with us, you can go to ballersdfs.com. It will direct you to our DraftKings League, Fantasy Footballers DFS, Borg, and Betz. You join the league and then enter the contest that we have live. You also can get notifications when they go live. We will do one for this Thursday, which, man, what a doozy of a game. Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, a Thursday night extravaganza, and Betz, you get the pleasure of writing up that article.
I did a little peek at salaries and a little peek at the game total, and I was like, okay, oh, this is Thursday Night Football. This is the Thursday night game we've been waiting for weeks. 37.5 total. The Saints are not going to have Olave and very unlikely to have Shaheed. So Rattler without starting wide receivers against this Denver defense should be great.
See, I hear what you're saying. All I know is that Bub means business. Bub means for the win. Bub at captain. I mean, who knew that we'd be week 7 and Bub means would be the key to the slate?
He's going to unlock everything. Guarantee that.
All right, Betz. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, man. Thursday night game. Please play with us. We're going to need a reason to watch that game, so come play with us on DraftKings. And then Kyle and I are back on Friday to break down the main slate, cash plays, tournament stacks, pick six, all that good stuff. We'll see you then. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.